So thank you, Gamal, for giving me the chance to talk about a medal I recently added to my collection. It's a Medal of James Garfield, the 20th President of the United States. I've entitled the presentation An Unexpected James Garfield United States Mint Presidential Medal, PR-20 from the Julian book. So James Garfield, 20th President of the United States, born in 1831, was a self-made guy, born in poverty here in Ohio, youngest in a family, and his father died shortly after his birth. Family struggled. In fact, for a while, he was a canal boy in Ohio along the canals. The canal boats were pulled by donkeys or mules, and he was the one who led the donkeys or mules for a while. He decided that that was not sufficiently stimulating, so he buckled down at school, ended up doing quite well, went to Hiram College here in Ohio, then went on to Williams and studied there to get his degrees returned, and eventually ended up being a professor at Hiram, then the president of Hiram College. He got into politics during the abolition era right before the Civil War, and enlisted in the Union Army and was a general early in the war, left the Army to run for Congress in 1862, I believe, was elected and served from 1863 on as a congressional leader. In 1880, he went to the Republican convention as the manager for John Sherman, brother of William Tecumseh Sherman. John was a senator from Ohio and was running, as was Ulysses Grant, who was trying to get elected to a third term. Convention kind of deadlocked. They turned to a dark horse, and the dark horse was James Garfield, who was not expecting to get nominated president. He ran against Winfield Scott Hancock, if memory serves right, another veteran of the Civil War, in fact, a prominent leader at Gettysburg. And Garfield won, became president in 1881 on March 4th of that year. His administration, though, is unfortunately known primarily for one thing, for him being in the wrong place at the wrong time. In July of 1881, he set off to go to the train station along with his Secretary of State, James Blaine. Garfield was going to get on the train and go off to a vacation spot. This is back in the days when presidents did go on the train. A disaffected, disgruntled office seeker, Charlie Guiteau, maybe even a little insane, came up behind the president and shot him twice. And this is a picture of him going down at the train station to everybody's horror. Really, one of the shots was non-consequential, and the other one lodged near his spine. And the medical types today say that if they had just left it alone, the president had an excellent chance of recovering. Instead, he had a bunch of docs, including some who would today be called quacks, poking and prodding at him and infecting the wound. He got sick, it went into sepsis, and 2 months after he was shot, after he had lost 50, 60, 70 pounds and become this emaciated wreck, he died of the infection in New Jersey, where they had brought him to try and recuperate. So a very sad story. He's buried up in Cleveland. If you ever want to see an overwhelmingly monstrous tomb, go see where President Garfield is buried. The Mint was working on a medal for him at the time he died, the standard presidential medal. It wasn't actually completed until after his death. It's Julian Presidential 20. This is an image of the medal that you would typically find. I don't know that it's a particularly rare medal or particularly hard to get. You can usually find one of the original ones if you look around for it. Sometimes they're a bit beat up. You will pay more for quality. That's the obverse. And here is the reverse of the original medal, inaugurated March 4th, 1881, President of the United States. We've got the nice wreath around. This is a Barber. I forget whether this is a Barber or a Morgan product, this particular wreath. So, and Julian in his book says it was only to be struck for a few years until the reverse above was replaced by a special one still in use. Often when presidents are killed in office or die, the Mint will strike a memorial reverse for the medals from that point forward, and that's what happened here. This is known as the Failor-Hayden 120 medal. This is from their catalog. Julian stops in the 1890s, so anything struck after that point is generally not covered. But this is the one most people are familiar with. Instead of just the inaugural reverse, it says inaugurated President of the United States, March 4th, 1881, assassinated July 2nd, 1881, died September 19th, 1881, with this very somber wreath. You will see these full. These are part of the series of presidential medals that the Mint was churning out in trainloads, it seems, from post-World War II until they stopped making these in significant numbers in the early 1980s. They're not particularly valuable. They're not hard to find at all. You can go on eBay and have your pick of a dozen of them right now if you wanted one. But this is the one we know, because the other one, in terms of current production, stopped within a few years back in the 1880s being produced, or at least that's what I thought. You'll notice that this medal has a different coloration. It's got kind of that gold sandblasted post-World War II look. Well, I was looking on eBay last year, and I saw a Garfield medal, and it's typical, obverse, typical color, typical post-World War II patina coloration. And I thought, okay, just another Garfield assassinated medal. So I flipped it over, and that's one thing I really tell people to do when they're searching for these things. Flip them over, even if you know it's common. Flip it over, see what's on the other side. And I did. And this is what I found, a modern restrike of the original Garfield presidential medal, something I had never seen before. Some of you may be familiar with it, but I had never seen one. I was under the illusion that Julian was right, that it was limited to back then, but clearly it wasn't. This is clearly a product of the last 50, 60, 70 years. It has all the hallmarks, the spottiness, the softness of the design when you start looking at that compared to the original medal. This is a modern restrike of that medal. So I thought that was interesting. I thought I would share it with everybody. Conclusions, I don't really have any conclusions. I guess my speculation is, what dies does the Mint still have, and who's in charge of pulling them up and striking them whenever they want to? And if it is that loose of a business, can I go in there and ask for anything I want to have struck up? I don't think so, but it would be nice. So that's what I have to share. Open to any comments anybody might have.